All right, what is up, NBA world? Want to kick it in here and give my playoff predictions for the 2021 NBA season and my predictions for the standings going out. All right, so number 15, we're going to have to go with no other, and everyone can kind of guess this, but the New York Knicks. Now, the New York Knicks have always been the bottom of the bottom teams for franchises in the league for the past decade or two or so. And the New York Knicks right now, they really had no direction. They brought in Tom Thibodeau. He usually goes and plays and is a coach more for veterans, but you have a bunch of young cats on their team. You still have Julius Randle out there with Elfrid Payton. You still have Dennis Smith Jr. on the team. You brought in Obi Toppin as your 8th pick in the draft. You do have RJ Barrett and Kevin Knox. So they're going to run with those same players. They didn't bring in any big names again. I don't expect anything good to really happen within the Knicks. They don't have any true big star player with potentials. And it doesn't flow well with Tom Thibodeau. He's going to run it for 40 minutes a night. It's going to look like a JV team out there in a varsity league. I expect the New York Knicks once again to be at the very bottom and pretty much try to search for that true star player in the draft. Hopefully they can get a top 3 pick, let alone number 1. I'm going to put the New York Knicks at number 15. At number 14, right next alongside, I'm going to have to go with a similar situation with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, the Cavaliers so far, they pretty much ever since LeBron James left in 2018, they never rebuild the correct way. They pretty much kept the same veteran players the first season, and then now you still have Kevin Love on your franchise. That just baffles me. They should have traded away Kevin Love in 2016 after the finals, but most likely in 2018 whenever LeBron James left. So you do have the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. They're going to be somewhat of a nice team to watch, but there's no true direction. You do have Andre Drummond on there for one last season because he opted in to pretty much get paid $30 million. So he's pretty much just going to want to put up stats. He wants a stat pad so he can enter into free agency. The Cavaliers right now, you do have Colin Sexton on the team. You do have Darius Garland, to where there are a bunch of questions out there for his potential and growth. You were able to pick up Isaac Okoro in the draft, so the team would be somewhat nice. There's no true direction on the franchise. I don't care for the Cavaliers. They're at number 14. At number 13, you have the Chicago Bulls, another franchise that has terrible management, that has no true sense of direction within their team. There is questions within Larry Markkinen once again year after year about his true potential and if he could be healthy. You were able to fire your head coach and bring in Billy Donovan. I'm not too crazy about that selection as a head coach. I don't see a true direction with the Chicago Bulls. Personally, for me, I think they need to retool, let alone rebuild that team and that franchise. You do have Wendell Carter Jr. as well on the team. You have Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine's still going to be an all-star bubble type player, but he's not going to will your team into the playoffs. So there's no true direction with Chicago. I expect more injuries to occur, and pretty much the same situation within them. Not too much really to talk about Chicago as well. They're at 13. Next, at number 12, I do have the Detroit Pistons. Now, Detroit basketball, you do have Derrick Rose and Blake Griffin as pretty much your top 2 guys out there. They're both on contract years. I expect Blake Griffin, he is looking to have a bounce back year. I don't think it will end well. He is around over 30 years of age, and he's injury prone. Same thing with Derrick Rose. But with D Rose, I actually expect the Pistons probably to trade Derrick Rose, let alone Blake Griffin within the season. With Dwayne Casey, he's probably going to get fired mid-season because their expectations are to make the playoffs, be that one of a mediocre team, but that's not going to work out in this tough Eastern Conference. Not too much as well with the Pistons at all within their team and their franchise. Everyone expects them to pretty much be in the 11th range, so Pistons out of there. Number 11, you do have the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Charlotte Hornets are on a uptrend, and I've been stating this. I expect LaMelo Ball to be a future star in this league. I expect him to win Rookie of the Year award. Right now, he's been playing amazing the last 3 games within the preseason. He is an impact player. He's up-tempo. He gets his players involved in the offense. I love that LaMelo Ball, he played pretty much overseas with grown men. He knows the game as it is. He is not selfish. He does not have a high ball usage, and he can play off the ball. Now, there is a question because you do have Gordon Hayward who injured himself. So let's see if it's going to be weeks, months, or the whole season. That's to be determined. But they do have a nice young roster. I really like the direction. You do have PJ Washington out there. You do have Devontae Graham. Terry Rozier, I think he can be in trade talks, so he may get traded because they have a bunch of guards out there. But I like the direction for the Hornets. I expect good things for them. 11th is a really good spot for them. At number 10, you do have the Orlando Magic. Now, with the Orlando Magic, they've always been around a 7th or 8th seed for the last 2 seasons. They really haven't picked up anything substantial within their team. They've been pretty much a border of the line pack type team. They do have some young players. Now, not a lot of them have a lot of big potential. Probably the biggest one would probably be for Markelle Fultz. The way he's adapted and pretty much been an upbringing the last season with Orlando. You do have Jonathan Isaac as well. Aaron Gordon, I actually expect him to be in trade talks. I expect the Orlando Magic to probably trade 1 or 2 substantial pieces on their team mid-season. I don't think it's going to go well for them. They pretty much hit their peak, which was a 7th seed. I don't expect much for Orlando. I expect them to pretty much retool mid-season. And number 9, and this one was a close one for me because we're about to enter the playoff seedings. At number 9, I actually put the Indiana Pacers. There's been questions of Victor Oladipo. He's been there pretty much 3 to 4 seasons. Miles Turner, I was shocked they didn't trade him off because he has a terrible net rating playing alongside Domantas Sabonis. I expect Oladipo and Miles Turner to be out of that team mid-season during the trade deadline. Indiana's been a great team, a great unit together, but I just don't like the pieces. I don't like their offseason. They didn't make any changes whatsoever, to be honest. So I'm going to put them at number 9. And this is another reason why Indiana's at 9, because at number 8, I do have the new resurging and retooled Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young, Bojan Bogdanovic, Danilo Gallinari, and you got Collins at your 4, Clint Capella at 5, and they have a pretty nice young bench. I really like the Atlanta Hawks. They're definitely to make the Eastern Conference playoffs. I think they'll squeak it out on the 8th seed. We may see a play-in tournament with the Atlanta Hawks and the Indiana Pacers. I expect Trae Young to take it up another level. He finally has some other players out there that can handle the offense. Gallinari and Bogdanovic, they can give you a nice 35 to 45 a night, both of them together. This is going to relieve the offense off Trae Young. He can be a playmaker as he's very underrated at being. And the Atlanta Hawks, they're on a true direction. I expect them to squeak over the 8th seed. At number 7, I do have the Washington Wizards. Of course, we know Russell Westbrook was traded over there for John Wall. I think Russ, being in the Eastern Conference, he's going to make the All-Star team easy. He will average a triple-double for your team. And since this is a new goal, this is pretty much a new spot for Russ. And being in the Eastern Conference, he can make the playoffs. He has Bradley Beal as his second option who can give you 30 a night. You do have Denji Avdija. He is the 9th overall pick with the Washington Wizards this draft. He will be a top 3 player for Rookie of the Year candidate. He is amazing out there. He's a playmaker. He knows how to win. I expect great things with Washington. I expect them also as well to make in-season trades to pretty much put more veteran players that fit alongside that team and franchise. The Washington's going to be a fun team, up-tempo team to watch in Washington, D.C. All right, at number 6, this may shock some people, but if you look within the list, it makes sense, the Toronto Raptors. Now, with the Toronto Raptors, you were able to lose Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol in free agency. They were a huge part within their defense, their offense, and championship identity. I think, and I believe now, they brought in Fran VanVleet to re-sign. And you brought in Aaron Baines to pretty much fill that center role. Toronto is a good team, but I think they're on somewhat of a down direction right now. I actually believe after this season, they're going to not rebuild, but retool and focus on Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Fran VanVleet. Kyle Lowry will still be in the picture, but they really need to switch a new era within their team roster. And I expect them to pretty much lose in the first round for this season. And it makes sense of eras. Raptors are still a great unit. They were top 2 seed last season, but there's internal changes and momentum. At number 5, I do have the Philadelphia 76ers. A lot of people, that may shock some people that the 76ers are over the Raptors. I think it's going to be pretty close neck and neck and with timeline development. We don't know if James Harden is going to be traded to Philly. I'm assuming that Ben Simmons sticks it out for this season. And you do have Doc Rivers as a new head coach. He's going to demand playoff expectations. And I believe the Philadelphia 76ers, when you have their new GM in basketball operations with Daryl Morey, he'll make some more moves within the season. He finally brought in some shooters and veterans on the team, Seth Curry, Dwight Howard, and then you were able to bring in Danny Green. I expect Philadelphia to be rejuvenated, healthy, and they'll get that top 5 seed. They're going to be a fun team to watch. And number 4, you do have the Miami Heat. Now, the Heat are more of a playoff team. During the regular season, they can be here or there. I expect number 4, number 5. I got number 4 right now. I think that's a perfect spot for them when it comes to the standings. You do have Jimmy Butler and the crew. Now, Giannis Antetokounmpo re-signed with the Milwaukee Bucks, so they may make a trade for James Harden or something along those lines to pair with another star player. I expect Bam Adebayo, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro to grow their game, more confidence, and they're going to be rejuvenated. The Miami Heat at number 4, I think it's a perfect slot for them. And number 3, I do have the Brooklyn Nets with Kyrie and healthy Kevin Durant. I thought the Brooklyn Nets would have made more offseason moves and more trade acquisitions. That was not the case. I think number 3 is a perfect spot for the Brooklyn Nets, which they can still make the NBA Finals. They can still represent the East. Number 3 is a really good, perfect spot for them. More with the Brooklyn Nets, I think Kevin Durant will be top 3, top 5 in MVP race voting. I think he's going to have an automatic great season. But there is some Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, little injuries here along the season that I expect them to miss a couple games. And they're getting their chemistry together. At number 2, the Boston Celtics. Even though I wasn't crazy about their offseason acquisitions, trades, yada yada, but you do have a development and growth of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, and younger players around that as well. Jason Tatum was a 6'8". He's actually reported to be 6'10" right now, and I expect him to be, as a wing, he's going to be able to score around 28 to 30 a night. I expect him to pretty much be around top 5 in MVP voting. Jason Tatum is going to crank it up this season, which is going to propel the Boston Celtics to move up. There is questions of possibly trading Kemba Walker. I expect him to be on the team. But the Celtics, they're a unit. I think they have more experience, let alone they have more motivation. After losing the conference finals to the Heat, they'll crank it up in the regular season. And at number 1, pretty simple, the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo re-signed for 5 more years with Milwaukee. He's going to be rejuvenated with the new Jrue Holiday as a third option on his team. I expect the Milwaukee Bucks, even though the Milwaukee Bucks, you were able to lose Eric Bledsoe and a couple other pieces, they'll be fine as where they're at. I know Giannis Antetokounmpo kills it in the regular season. No different at all whatsoever. But those are my 1 through 15 playoff standings for the Eastern Conference. I'm going to make another video, a part 2 for the Western Conference, and kick it off of there. Let me know down below what you guys have for your list. I know the East is stacked for pretty much the top 6 teams. And some of these teams are very close to where you can put, one or another. But let me know what you guys got down below. I'm excited. The season's about to start in a week or two. We'll kick it off from there.